Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Hi, everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody from all over the world. Today's webinar, we actually have guests from everywhere, from the Americas, from Europe, and from Asia. So again, good morning to all of you. And I guess it might be evening or good afternoon to some of you. We are now, again, let me introduce myself. My name is Roy Platon. I am the Philippine Country Manager for ACAD Asia. We are a Singaporean startup with presence in multiple countries in Southeast Asia. And because of and I'll be your moderator and host for this morning's webinar. So, given the fact that a huge number of our attendees actually come from Vietnam, we have the pleasure of having a live translator to help us with trying to translate for you into Vietnamese. I'd like to introduce ACAD Asia Country Manager for Vietnam, Ms. Quong Nguyen. Quong, please say hi.
Hi, Roy. Hi, everyone. Xin chào tất cả các thầy cô ở Việt Nam. Tôi là Liên Khương và đang đại diện cho ACAD Asia tại Việt Nam. Không phải là dân chuyên nghiệp dịch thuật nhưng hôm nay sẽ cố gắng hỗ trợ mọi người hết mình. Thì có lẽ cũng có một số giáo viên sử dụng tiếng Anh cũng được hạn chế, cho nên mình sẽ cố gắng dịch. Trước hết là các bạn sẽ theo dõi trên cái closed caption, nó sẽ dịch bằng typing nha. Thanks again. Hope you enjoy the section. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you very much, Quong. So during the duration of the webinar, we will probably try to have some Vietnamese subtitles or live translation. So please bear with us as we do those translating. So in general, just to give you a brief overview of this morning's discussion, today we'll be having basically a sharing or a discussion on best practices on how to migrate to online learning. It's no surprise that, you know, in the world today, COVID-19 has hit all countries quite severely. Businesses and stopped, and most especially schools and institutions. Students cannot come to campus. Teachers cannot actually teach. And now it's a big challenge for us in the education sector as to how to bring this into, how to teach and continue teaching in this new environment. So we have a guest from ACAD Asia to actually help us learn more about how the best practices are for this. And then later on, we also have a case study from Philippines on how we have probably adopted, and we actually have a partner school with us that was able to get on their classes online within 1 week. All right, so as soon as that. And hopefully, with those sharings and insights, you can learn something to apply to your own schools and educational institutions today. So what I've done right now, at least just to moderate the information in the chat, is I've disabled the chat for now. And what we can do is, if you have any questions or comments, please use the Q&A button on the Zoom menu at the bottom. So you will see a Q&A button there. So please direct your questions there. And because we have so many attendees today, we'll do our best to tackle them by themes. We'll group them together. And hopefully by towards the end of this webinar, we can go through some of those questions with you and answer them for you. Okay, so again, we'll have some sharings this morning. So first off, to start, we'd like to hear, of course, a welcome message from the founder and CEO of ACAD-Asia, live from Singapore. I'd like to introduce Mr. Nilesh Bhatia. Nilesh, please take it away.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you very much. And a very, very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. To everybody, we really, really appreciate your time to come here today and join us and learn, hopefully, on how we can help you to migrate your classes online in the most easiest and the quickest manner possible. ACAD-Asia is based in Singapore. We have offices and country managers in Singapore, India, Vietnam, Philippines, and of course, Indonesia as well. At the end of this webinar, should you have any further questions, please do feel free to contact any one of our offices in these countries, or you can contact us directly here in Singapore, and we will channel your inquiry to the respective country office. Rest assured, we are here to help and support all educators across Asia. And it is our hope that all of you are able to provide a quality education to your students at any given point, from any time, at any time, from anywhere. And that's been our mission as well. And we thank you once again for joining us here today. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you, Neil, for that message. So now I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this morning, and that will be the bulk of our topic for today, because he actually has a wealth of experience in online education and e-learning, more than 20 years. In fact, his team, when they actually won an award in 2017. I think the best e-learning team, I think, in Singapore. He has a wealth of experience and is with one of the leading polytechnics. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Head of Academics, Mr. Mark Nivan Singh. Mark, take it away.
Hi, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. It's a good, bright, sunny, cloudy day in Singapore. Welcome to the webinar. I'll just switch to the PowerPoint slides and then we will continue from there. So just give me a second as I bring up the slides. Okay. Hello everyone again. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Mark and I'm very pleased to be with everyone here today. Today, we will be talking about some of the things we need to think about when trying to shift to online learning, and more importantly, the design considerations that make online learning effective as we grapple with the COVID-19 situation around the world. I will be sharing my experience with our colleagues in Singapore, and I do hope that at the end, when we do a Q&A, you can share some of your thoughts as well. So a little bit about me. I've been an educator all my life. I have taught in secondary schools in Singapore and was also heading a pedagogical team that focused on effective teaching and learning in an institute of higher learning. I have a master's degree in education, and as Roy mentioned earlier, in 2017, my team won the Blackboard Catalyst Award for Best E-Learning Professional Development Site. Now, in my free time, I look for innovative ways to help lecturers make learning engaging and, more importantly, meaningful for students. So this is what I thought we should cover for today. We have quite a number of things, but I hope you understand that because of limited time, we won't go into too much detail, but I hope to give you a good overview of things to look out for, and then we can continue the conversation either offline or through the Q&A. We will first look at things that we need to consider even before we talk about moving learning online. Then, I think it will be wise to talk a little bit about students and learning, and that's where I'll share with you my thoughts on how much content we should be pushing to students, and more importantly, how should the learning be structured for students. I will then share a little bit about how we can check that students are really learning now that they have shifted online. And then I also want to address a little bit about whether it is better to do synchronous or asynchronous learning. We will then wrap up the session by talking about what you can do with your existing content, and then I will take some questions that you may have for me and the team. Then I also like to leave some time for Q&A because I think it's also wise that we can share experiences from around the world. So if you are ready, let's talk about some of the things to consider now that we think we need to move learning online and keep the learning happening. Now, in order for online learning experience to be effective and meaningful, I sincerely believe that there are two key ingredients that must be present and considered even before we can claim we have had successful teaching and learning experience. These two ingredients are: one, good solid protocols, and two, effective learning design. Now, for this first part of my sharing, we will focus on good solid protocols. So what exactly do I mean when I say good solid protocols? I would like to share with you a story that happened to me early in my career as a teacher. Truth be told, COVID-19 is not my first crisis as a teacher. I lived through SARS in 2003 and I lived through H1N1. Both of these times, I learned very valuable lessons about good protocols. For example, I spent many hours designing my online learning classes for my students, but it was mostly all in vain because the organizations that I was working for then didn't have a comprehensive value chain plan, and the technology that we had back then was not able to handle my very grand plans. So we ended up resorting to printing worksheets and posting them to students. This obviously created a few problems. One, it was a nightmare to print and stick stamps and stuff these worksheets into envelopes to send out. Two, to make matters worse, some students never received it at all. And three, it is obviously bad for the environment. Anyway, from my experience, it is therefore, I think, imperative if you are a school leader to have a comprehensive plan and stock take of the current capabilities and budget that you have. And more importantly, make clear to all stakeholders what is the stand towards online learning. When I say this, I'm reminded by Henry Ford's famous line, fail to plan, plan to fail. The second thing that I think we need to think about is to create a set of guidelines or cheat sheet available for your teachers or lecturers or educators so that you know the boundaries and can quickly get to work. If you Google after I finish my sharing why online learning fails, it basically boils down to poor learning design and inappropriate use of technology. So I think it is important that school leaders spend some time and effort to provide guidelines based on the plan the school has. Another important tip is to think about the way that you are going to monitor the students' workload. From our experience in Singapore, year after year, when we conduct learning online, the number one complaint all students have is they felt that the workload is much more what they have in a face-to-face class than online. With that comes the importance of clear communication to students. Without clear communication on how to learn and what to learn, I'm pretty sure your students will lose interest very quickly. Trust me, it has happened to me before. Students couldn't even find the start learning button and the learning just went to bits even before it started. So now, while we have spoken a lot about students, I think your instructors, lecturers, teachers themselves are also critical stakeholders in the whole equation. What kind of support are we providing them? Where do they go for help if they need it? How are you helping them level up so that you can provide an excellent learning experience for students? So lastly, I also think that it is important that management thinks about how you are going to obtain student feedback on the learning experience. Don't discount this. This is important. It will help management make better, more informed decisions in the future. I'm particularly reminded by this quote by Albert Einstein. Insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting the different results. So now that we have looked at good, solid protocols, let's look at the other components. My pet topic, something that I hold very dear to my heart. Effective learning design. And I want to start by looking at students and learning. If there is one thing that you should take away from my sharing with you today, is this. Just because you are merely shifting the mode of learning from traditional classroom to an online environment does not mean and guarantee that learning will automatically happen. You cannot realistically expect students to learn on their own online. Let us be real. The teacher, instructor, lecturer is absolutely critical and is the catalyst here. The same principles of good, effective pedagogical principles apply just as importantly online, just as we do in a normal face-to-face class. In fact, as I was preparing for this webinar, the past few days, all I read about is how online learning is a failure and students are not learning at all. Maybe it's a good time now to really revisit some of these key principles of learning. I'm sure some of them could be quite familiar to many of you. I would think that it would be wise to just go through this very quickly so that we understand the base that we are operating from. Now, one of the key principles of learning must include having multiple skill strategies that are incorporated into the design of learning. Now, if you take a step back and think about this, many e-learning designs are simply just mounds and mountains of text that's just put online in the hope that students can navigate the complexity of all this learning and somehow learning will happen. That to me is a little bit irresponsible in my opinion, because students, whether they are in the face-to-face classroom or learning online, need motivational strategies. The other thing that I think we need to be quite clear about, and we need to think about very clearly is your learning goals, objectives, and proficiency expectations are clearly made visible to learners. This means that learners know exactly what they are getting themselves into, and they themselves should be able to regulate their learning so they know what is expected of them. Do not again underestimate the importance of providing these objectives and outcomes clearly right at the beginning for students. The other thing that I think is really not so done in a consistent manner is how are we leveraging on students' prior knowledge so that we can activate it and connect it to new learning. Another interesting thought would be is really making use of technology in an online environment, which is principle number 4, to enhance learning through multiple methods and presentation modes. Now, with the technology available and the use of edutech tools such as videos, podcasts, quizzes, and even discussion boards really help to engage the whole range of senses. Now, number 5, this is particularly important to me. I focus on this a lot. To me, this transcends every important rule in or principle of learning, and that is content is organized around key concepts and principles that are fundamental to understanding the structure of the subject. So here's a challenge for you. Think about this for a second. Many of you who are here online now are content method experts in your subject. If I was to issue you a challenge, can you distill the principles and concepts of your subject area into 4 major concepts? Can you do it? Think about this for a second. By doing so, it really just emphasizes or highlights what is key learning for your students without necessarily creating a lot of fluff that comes along with it. And we will discuss this in greater detail as we move along. So principle number 6 is looking at good thinking promotes the building of understanding. If we just pile mounds and mounds of text online and we do not help students to grapple or interact with the content, you don't really build understanding. And that means learning is basically not happening. Number 7, learning design utilizes the working of memory systems. We all know that students forget easily. We always tend to find ourselves repeating content over and over again. And there's a reason for this. It's because our students really have poor memory systems. So the learning online gives us the opportunity to really ensure that we make use of technology to help our students learn and memorize things more effectively. And that brings us to principle number 8, which is the development of expertise requires deliberate practice. Now, this is one of the eternal truths in learning that I think we all acknowledge. To be really good at something, you need to practice. In fact, Malcolm Gladwell wrote, you need 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to be an expert in something. So that's the same concept that I think we need to apply even in an online environment, where we really need to find ways to give students opportunities to practice and interact with the content that they learn. Now, number 9 to me is also one of the more important things that maybe we do not think about seriously when we do online learning. And that is assessment practices are integrated into the learning design to provide quality feedback. If you forget everything I've talked about so far, the research is very clear. You need to provide quality feedback for your students when they are learning online. In fact, in his groundbreaking book, Visible Learning, John Hattie says the number 1 method that helps with improving learning is quality feedback by the instructor, lecturer, teacher. So think about this. How can we provide quality feedback to every one of our students who is learning online? And number 10, a psychological climate is created with success, which is success-oriented and fun. And I think this is where online learning really has an opportunity or an affordance to really offer environment which can be success-oriented and fun. So the main point I'm trying to make here is that these principles are eternal, regardless of the mode of learning, and that designers of e-learning must pay attention to these principles if they want to do successful learning. Roy, maybe it's now a good time for us to do the poll. Roy?
Yes, we can try to put up the poll now.
Yeah, can we run the poll now? So the poll questions that's coming up, based on the principles that we just talked about, look at the question and I would love to hear your thoughts.
So now there should be a poll appearing on the screen of everybody. We'll just give a few minutes to allow everybody, maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute, to allow everybody to answer the poll, and then Mark can continue from there. Again, we'd like to thank everybody who's joining us from all over the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are. And amidst this COVID-19 crisis that we are all going through, we at ACAD-Asia are here to help support you as you try to understand and migrate to online learning, and to get your schools and institutions online, and to continue the education that our young people need desperately, especially now in these times where there's a lot of uncertainty, and we have to adjust and adapt as human beings so that we can actually continue. We have every confidence that as the entire world tries to keep the virus in check, that we will see this through. And education is one of the areas where we need to be able to provide, so that people will be better informed and learn actually how to study online. So some of the questions are trickling in slowly. So although we only have about half of the participants answering the poll, I can actually end the poll now. And then Mark, maybe you can look at the result, I guess.
Yep.
This is not a surprise to you. So we're going to share the results with everybody now.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so actually the results, thank you for that. I thank you for participating in the poll. Yes, I think even in our previous session, when we talked to some other educators around the world, they basically agree that these principles apply regardless of the context. I think the challenge now would be to include these principles in an online environment. Now, due to the shortage of time, and because I'm really just sharing core ideas, go into details. But if you're interested to know more how we can integrate these principles for effective learning, please speak to any of the ACAD-Asia staff who can help upskill your lecturers. So let's move on. Now that we have reminded ourselves about principles of learning, I think I want to address this question that many instructors or lecturers always like to ask. So Mark, let's talk about how much content is enough, because I have lots of content. I think what we need to think about is there is no easy answer to this question. It really depends on the profile of your students. But I do know one thing that is true, and I mentioned this earlier. Our students in Singapore especially are notoriously poor at remembering things. And again, just because we shove them online does not mean that they learn. So more is not always better. The other thing that we need to think about is you really need to think about the nature of your subject. How is it best presented? What is the essence of your subject, and what are the concepts that make up the subject? I hope you're still thinking about my challenge that I issued out 5 minutes ago, which is, can you distill the essence of your content into 4 main concepts? So what I think we need to think about then is, after we have done that, how are we going to present the content? Is it best through a simple explainer video? Do they need to see it step by step? Would an animation be better? Or is audio good enough? I think we also need to think about helping them remember. And more importantly, again, it is not about piling on content after content, because not everyone will go through everything. More importantly, I also think it is also about introducing formative assessments to help students to consistently check for their learning and understanding, and also to provide feedback for the lecturer and instructor on what is working and what is not, so that the instructor can then make changes on the fly. So this leads us to one of the big questions. How then should I structure my learning for the students? I think what I'm showing you now is familiar to many of us. It is Gagne's 9 events of instruction, and it is, in my opinion, an evergreen model. I have specifically chosen it because it dovetails nicely with the principles of learning. For example, look at the second event of instruction. It says to inform learners of the objectives. And if you remember principle 2 in the previous slide, learning goals, objectives, and performance expectations are clearly visible to learners. You can see why this model provides an easy to use guide on how instructors should structure our learning. First, gain the student's attention. This can be in the form of a video or even a controversial statement. Then make clear the expectations and what is it that students will be learning from you by attending this online class. Then structure learning by activating prior knowledge with things that students are familiar with, so that they can easily connect and learn new concepts. You can then present the content, and what is important in my opinion about this model, again, let me emphasize, is the opportunity for the lecturer to provide guidance and feedback. This goes back to what I said earlier. You cannot just dump some content online and expect your students to learn it. There must be feedback and consistent guidance. Which brings me to the next important point. So how do I check if my students are really learning? Now, I think when it comes to checking for understanding, we can divide it into two components: knowledge items and skill-based items. In my humble opinion, it is easier to do an assessment of knowledge items online, and these can take the form of MCQs, fill in the blanks, matching items, and even crossword puzzles. For skills-based items, for lecturers such as people who teach practical skills, performance-based assessments are better methods to make informed judgments of student skills. However, in light of the fact that it would be difficult for students to come together in this present environment to do a skills-based assessment, you as an instructor can mitigate this, getting them to work on case studies, posing problem-based questions, or even getting them to do video submissions of them practicing the skill or doing a performance. I just want to emphasize this clearly. While this is not perfect, it will go in some way in checking for student learning and ensure that you are not wasting your time putting online learning. The best part is, if you think about it, these items do not need to happen online synchronously. It can be done offline and submitted when students return to school after the situation has stabilized. So another question that gets asked a lot is, so if we are talking about moving learning online, should it be synchronous or asynchronous? Before I share with you the pros and cons of each, I think it might be useful for me to share my own personal thoughts. Personally, when people ask me, so Mark, when you do your e-learning design, what do you go for? Do you go with synchronous or asynchronous? Personally, I feel that going asynchronous, I beg your pardon, is best. Why? Asynchronous, in my opinion, allows me more time to plan more effectively, decide on how best to deliver the concepts and content, and also allow me to choose a wide variety of tools to check for my student understanding. The best part, students can access it anywhere, anytime, and I can support my students' learning anytime without any sense of time pressure. Now, the one time I tried to do synchronous learning, the technology didn't work. There was an issue with the microphone, and managing students in an online environment was far more challenging than, of course, doing it face-to-face. Now, you may, of course, disagree with me. That's just my personal opinion. And there are advantages in doing synchronous teaching. Some of them include real-time discussion. Everybody is in the same room. You can have face-to-face discussion. It brings the whole social element together when we do things like real-time collaboration. There's also opportunity for the instructor or lecturer to provide immediate feedback, which I have emphasized earlier, a critical component in students' learning. It can be relatively cost-effective in getting lots of people online at the same point and then conducting a lesson. And the facilitator can quickly gauge the understanding of concepts and making changes to the teaching and learning immediately on the spot to ensure that he or she can close the knowledge gaps. And some students do find this motivating so that they can complete the assignments of the course because they feel that the lecturer is always available. As with asynchronous, I would just like to emphasize that some of the advantages include anytime, anywhere learning. Many of my students have told me they do not like to learn early in the morning. They like to spend the night when bandwidth is better to do their learning. They like to access materials when it is convenient, it is their time, and not be bounded by, I need to be online at this particular moment in time. Asynchronous also provides them an opportunity to research some answers, to really reflect on their learning, and more importantly, to engage in deep learning. And this allows them to express their thoughts without any kind of interruption. Now, there are also disadvantages for each. And I think for synchronous, this is one of the disadvantages, and that would be is you need to coordinate it in such a way that everybody needs to be at the same time and same place. It may require some technical knowledge, although I think with the advances in technology, this is now being reduced, and it does require some form of technical infrastructure. What happens if we are not all blessed or privileged enough to have good, solid infrastructure? Then synchronous learning may actually be a disadvantage. The course is only as good as the facilitator. As with face-to-face teaching, it all boils down to how good is the design and how good is the lecturer or the instructor. And learners, unfortunately, do not get to learn at their own pace. There is very little opportunity for deliberate practice. They cannot go back and interact with the information at their own pace and own time. But that doesn't mean that asynchronous does not have its disadvantages as well. Some of this may include, and this is one of a real concern, is learners may feel a lack of connection because they are interacting with the information at their own time. They may not necessarily be online together with their classmates, and this might be quite lonely, so to speak. So therefore, self-paced learning does require a level of motivation to complete the course. And more importantly, sometimes there is delayed feedback. Students may not necessarily get an answer immediately, especially if one of my students who post a question or ask for help at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm pretty sure he or she will not be able to get an answer within the next 10 minutes. And again, there's no immediate access to facilitator if they have any questions or if there's a technical issue that they are facing, they are unable to solve it. So we will now look at the next part of the webinar, which I would like to just spend a little bit more time here. So what can I do with existing content? It is a question that I get asked a lot by my colleagues and new lecturers who, when they join the institute, always ask, but Mark, I have a lot of content already. What can I do with my existing content? Do I really need to create new content? The good news is, no, you do not. So I've tried to create a simple schematic to help lecturers figure out how they can develop this quite quickly and deploy it within the next 2 to 3 days should the need arise. I think right at the very beginning, we need to understand is, what is it that you want your students to learn? So it goes back to the principles of outcome-based education. Are you able to clearly state what are the outcomes that you would expect your students to be able to achieve by learning this course online? You will then need to organize the learning into concepts. Yes, it's going back to the challenge I issued earlier again. You really need to think about organizing your learning into key learning concepts. Then decide if the 9 events is the way to go. Now, there are many other models, but for the sake of today's session, I'm just providing one. You can look for more, or maybe drop me an email. I'll be more than happy to share with you other models. But you need to decide if the 9 events is the way to go. And when you do decide that it is the way to go, you really need to take out pen and paper. Yes, really take out pen and paper. Start to plan and organize the learning from your students' point of view. Think about this from their point of view, and you will be able to see what is actually going to work and what it is not going to work. The next thing that you should then think about is, can you reuse your content? You will be surprised, and I'm pretty sure that many of the content that you have is reusable. I would also like to suggest that maybe you should curate and not create new items for your online learning. You can curate with the many professional learning communities that you are already part of. You can even go to YouTube. You can even look for instructional videos. And I think many of you are already familiar with the idea of TeacherTube, which has many instructional videos that you can take and use for your students' learning. The next thing then you should think, really, what kind of assessment do I need to provide for my students to check for their learning? And I would like to emphasize this is not what I would call a high stakes sort of an exam. This is just little simple activities that you would want to incorporate to ensure that my students are really benefiting from learning online and that they are picking up information that I'm putting up online. You will then need to develop the material, and again, I would like to emphasize, look for opportunities to curate rather than develop from scratch. Then, more importantly, sit down and create the instructions for students on how they can navigate the learning and how they should be interacting with the content. I cannot emphasize this enough. Again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Don't provide clear instructions, and be sure many of your students already give up on the learning before they even start. The other thing that I think you should think about is you should monitor the learning and the quality of interactions that is going on in your course. Why? Because this provides you the opportunity to provide feedback and also to understand what students really are getting from the lessons, and are they really learning, or are they struggling with certain ideas and concepts. Now, it shouldn't stop there. The final step that you should do is to really ask for feedback from your learners. What was the experience like for them? And this is important because as I've done this with my own students, I realized that they are telling me things from a learner's perspective that myself as an instructor may not have considered. And that is why I've now created the one about create the instructions for students, because many of them say while the design is good, they actually have no idea of how to navigate the learning, what should they do first, what should they do next, and so forth. So think about this. Ask for feedback from learners. You may not like some of the feedback that they give, but if you start early, it gives you the opportunity to ensure that we create good and effective learning for our students. So I thought I'll just do a quick summary. We are about to come to an end with my sharing about do's and don'ts. Number one, use what you already have, but don't just put what you already have online and expect students to know. You need to provide a guide and plan for effective learning. You cannot expect students to be self-directed or expect them to learn on their own. It is highly unlikely to happen. You do need to check for student understanding often. Don't assume students are learning without checking. Any resources that the professional development communities, don't try and redevelop every material. It is going to be a most impossible task. Students consume, make them contributors. And this is where I feel it is important as a motivating factor when students now feel they are part of the learning and not just simple consumers. So that's a challenge for you as well. How then do you let your students become contributors towards their own learning? Do make use of the tools made available. Personally, I never ever buy tools for e-learning. If the organization doesn't buy them enterprise license, I do not spend money buying them, because to me, there are many free tools available that you can make use of. So do not buy expensive tools that you will only use once. Okay. Another do is apply the KISS principle, keep it simple, simply, and more is not always better. Another do, organize the learning in a clean and efficient manner. Do not overly crowd things with extra graphics. It really doesn't help with the learning. So don't assume that students will be able to navigate your learning intuitively just because they are considered digitals, born in the digital age, doesn't mean that they are able to navigate the learning easily. That was my cost and horror when I realized that actually students needed step-by-step instructions of how to navigate the learning. You should, as good practice also, provide extra learning materials for students that can help reinforce their learning, and also for students who want more of this extra learning. And you shouldn't teach more than necessary, especially in an online learning. So I'd just like to quickly share with you some of the tools that I have found useful, and they are free, that I've used quite a lot even when I'm doing my e-learning. One is a Screencast-O-Matic. You can easily record your voice for PowerPoint and create quick explainer videos. Padlet, where you can use it to allow students to post their views to check for student understanding. I've also used Powtoons, where you can create comic strips to teach concepts. And now I have also extended the use of Powtoons to my students, where I get them to create comic strips to make sure that I know they understand the content that I'm trying to teach them. You can also use websites like Anchor.fm, where you can create podcasts, short, sweet podcasts to students and distribute it to them so that they can learn on the go. And also use websites like Canva, where you can create powerful infographics and free ebooks you can distribute to your students. And of course, with the tool that we are using now, Zoom, have live discussions with your students online. I personally like to use Zoom to target my feedback to my students when I need to do more small group-based type of instruction. or to give personalized feedback to students. Of course, you can use Fiju. Now, it's a learning management platform, and we are currently offering such trainer upskilling plan where we can dive deeper into the principles we talking about the last 20 minutes and help lecturers really develop engaging online learning experiences. You can also enroll an unlimited number of students and instructors or teachers online for free lifetime access of materials and information. You get to upload your own curriculum again for free and integrate with teams for live communication and making use of other free educational technology tools that you can do together with you. And more importantly, to keep up with the digital age, the issuance of certifications through a blockchain certification, and also allowing for customization of local segments. So if you are interested, you can contact the people on the list here. I have really come to an end of my presentation. I thank you for spending some time with me, and I would really love to hear some of your thoughts about how you are doing e-learning or learning online. And you can post some of the questions in the Q&A, and I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, Mark, thank you so much for those interesting insights. We actually had a flurry of questions coming from all over, and Nilesh and I have been trying to answer as much as we can, but some we kind of left here, and we'll group them according to themes. And so that towards the Q&A portion, towards the end of this webinar, we can tackle them together so that everyone can learn. So right now, we've basically heard best practices from Singapore, so approaches to online and e-learning. And, sometimes it also starts from the offline, how you approach the structuring your lessons and the education of the student, and then using the tools so that you can actually present it and discuss it properly, and of course assessing afterwards. So now let's try to take that Singapore context and apply it to a more specific case study. Let's say if we were to apply this to a real school, how do we do that? So our next speaker actually, he is the founder of this school. He started it around 20 years ago and was a pioneer in Philippine education for international learning and entrepreneurial education. So here to share more about how he was able to help the school and the teachers migrate to online learning in about a week, which is an amazing feat in itself. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He is the president and founder of Thames International Business School based in Manila, Philippines. May I introduce Mr. Joel Santos.
Thanks, Roy. Roy, can you turn on my video? It's locked there.
Okay, we will turn on your video.
Okay.
How's that? Okay.
Yeah.
Take it away, Joel.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm delighted to be here to share our experiences. I'm going to share my screen. So, a little bit of background. So, I'm a co-founder of Thames International Business School. The school was founded 20 years ago. We were the Philippines' first international college. We're mainly known for our international education, where students do 2 years in the Philippines, then they finish off in the UK, Australia, or Singapore. We're also a pioneer in entrepreneurial education. Particularly, all of our programs have an entrepreneurial spin to it, whether it's in business administration or communications. Now, ever since Gen Z started to enter the educational setting, we had to adjust the way we run things. So it's smaller sizes, experiential learning, and all of our lecturers have always been actual practitioners. We then migrated to a flipped classroom approach. It means 40% online and about 60% face-to-face. Because we felt this was really best for the digital native, which is Gen Z. So we've been technology enabled for the past 2 years. But having said that, we were not prepared for what we're experiencing now. So what I wanted to share with you is basically how do you migrate to online learning in 7 days when you don't have a choice? So there were warning signs in January. The COVID-19 situation blew up in China. And by February, it was rapidly spreading throughout the region. Singapore had most of the cases. And what we noticed was that each time COVID-19 hits an area in China, all the schools will be asked to close and shift to online learning. So we already saw what the future would be once COVID-19 or the virus spread within the Philippines. So we planned our business continuity planning, or BCP. The management team initiated its BCP by saying, what's the risk assessment? When will the virus actually spread to the Philippines? And if it does, what will the government do? And based on practice, we saw that we will most likely be asked to cancel classes. So we made our strategies. We said, what are the different scenarios? How can we address it? We started planning and we started testing different options, assuming there was a lockdown. And by the week of March 9, 2020, our Philippine government gave an indicator that there will be a potential lockdown. So from our point of view as management, it's time to rock. In a crisis situation, schools are very, in a crisis situation, one has to be agile and adjust very quickly. The traditional school, on a normal situation, will be very hierarchical and very bureaucratic. We threw out all of this hierarchy and just divided the whole school into 4 clusters. The most important cluster was the student experience because they're our main customer. We had to make sure that when we get locked down, that number one, they can study anywhere because they cannot go to the campus. It's still seamless so that it's still the quality education that we promise to deliver them. And the third is that it should include socialization because they still have to feel the community of being together with their classmates and friends. So technology enhancements, the other cluster, we started searching and adapting all technologies. We now have to move all our processes, not just education, into online. That means operation services. We started training, and more training. On the academic services, because we were in the middle of our term, we had to make sure our online registration and enrollment was working. If not, we were going to lose the students. Because if there's an announcement that there's no classes, then most of the parents might say, there's no need to enroll because classes are canceled anyway. We had to empower the lecturers through training, as I mentioned. We made sure the students had all the information they need for the FAQs, and we set up a help desk for the lecturers, the students, and the parents. Now, migrating to the other cluster is the virtual campus. We had to make sure we had all the systems and processes that had the ability to work, teach, study at home. We prepared all the payments for the suppliers and our salaries. And we ensured that when the lockdown happens, that our community is well and they had food supply. So when the lockdown finally happened, we only had 3 days to prepare after the announcement of the government. So we worked from March 12 to 15, 3 days, non-stop, no sleep, migrated to FreeJu of AcadAsia, mainly because we felt this was the right platform for us in this particular moment. We had another LMS, but the FreeJu platform fit what we needed. Plus, more than that, FreeJu came with teacher training. which was, I think, for us the most critical. We converted all our processes to online, and the lecturer training was started by AcadAsia. But we, as a TEMS transformation team, had to make sure that the lecturer training of AcadAsia was also contextualized within the Philippine setting. And finally, we went on a communication roadshow. We had Zoom conferences with students and parents. This was to allay the fears that the campus or the school will be closing down. We assured them that we're going to go online and we're going to give them a seamless experience. This allowed actually the parents and the students to be confident to still enroll in the school. So on March 16, after 1 week, TEMS International opened as a virtual school. Everything was operating except the physical campus. So this was me doing different student conferences. Paris Hilton is not my student. That's my student who was just trying to be funny. This is the FreeJu platform that we used. The lecturers, after being trained, started uploading content. As you can see, the videos, these are local videos of successful Filipino entrepreneurs and other content. This is another class being held for the postgraduate students. We're able to do workshops, break them down into the groups because of the technology. We continued on with the exercises. And that's a class picture. And at the end of it all, after 1 week, the students actually, in some of the Instagram stories, said, learning never stops at TEMS. So what's the result after the first week? March 21, Saturday, 71% of the students were able to enroll. So we were able to recover 71% of our students who would have been lost if we didn't migrate online. And for those who didn't have access to the banks because everything was closed, we tried to find another facility that can take the payment. 85% of our students were enrolled with the FreeJu account, and 96% of our lecturers were trained by. Subsequent trainers are still scheduled with the TEMS transformation team and AcadAsia because training doesn't stop, because we have to ensure the rapid upskilling of the lecturers to be online lecturers. And finally, 73% of all of our classes have started successfully as an online class, with also a very successful pilot of 3 full days of a postgraduate workshop. I think the best way to check how we did is through testimonials from the students. So I'll read one of them. TEMS did a good job of humanizing technology. The online class experience went really smoothly and beyond the expectations. The quality of learning that we received was no less than what we could have received if the classes were done in a face-to-face setup. Next testimonial from another student. Never thought it would be that easy to have a full classroom experience completely online. Still got to interact with classmates, have group consultations and individual presentations through an online platform, while receiving the same level of care and knowledge as in a normal classroom setup. Carefully planned and thoughtfully executed. Thank you, TEMS. And finally, a lecturer testimonial. It was a good day in the end. I'm happy with my class. Perfect attendance. All focus on interactive discussions. Deliver the quiz. Surprised with the quality of responses. The online participation exceeded my expectations. As Mark mentioned, the lecturer is the catalyst, and they're essential to this whole process. And if in COVID-19, the frontliner is the people in the medical field, in education, online education, the frontliner is the lecturer. So sharing a quote, they used to be the sage on the stage. As on the face-to-face, they handle everything. They are the ones to be listened to. But the sage on the stage expectation has been transformed to the role of a guide on the side. teachers are now journey companions of students in the discovery of knowledge. To get this thing to work, there's a change of methodology, adjustment of pedagogy, and more importantly, a change of mindset. This won't happen if the lecturer thinks I just migrate from what my face-to-face was and just go online. It's not like that. There's a whole process to that. And that's where really equipping and training lecturers is critical. And that's where ACAD Asia came to our rescue to ensure that our lecturers are able to transform very quickly. So my learning is this. To go online, execution needs to be a systemic approach in all three aspects: people, process, technology. Systemic means they all have to work and function together. If one doesn't work, it will not be executed well. People, as I said, the staff, the managers, the lecturers, the students have to be on board. The processes have to be aligned to an online learning environment. And in terms of technology, they all have to be prepared for, whether it's bandwidth, connectivity, and any type of technology. We are working with the biggest telco in the Philippines to make sure that we continue to be technology enabled as we progress. Because for now, online learning is here to stay and it's the new normal. And if they don't work systemically, then there's no point doing it. It's all or nothing. Because if it's not systemic with all three, people, process, and technology, it's bound to fail. So we're sharing this one because as a fellow educator, we're all going through this crisis together. Let no school be left behind. When we're hit with a lockdown, we cannot let the education of our students stop. So we are here to help. These are the emails and contact details of our team. And anybody can also get inputs from us of how we went through this journey. We're in this thing together as educators. We're also the frontliners. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks very much, Joel, for that actually inspiring sharing. I saw some of the comments here. And they were inspired by that example. Although some of them were saying also it's also in the Philippine context. And some of your questions actually also are pertaining to, okay, so how do you apply this to our own context? So right now, before I move into the Q&A portion of the talk, I'll just run through and share my own screen. And I'll share a few slides about how FreeJu would actually look like. So let me just set up a little bit here so that I can share my screen with you. So this will just be a quick run through of what FreeJu would look like from a student perspective. Let me just move my windows here a little bit. So this is what the student will see initially. It will. This is basically the home page, and this is an example. This is basically the standard template. If your school or institution would like to customize this front page, in addition, that is also available, but that needs to be discussed in a business arrangement. Then courses are listed here. So when the student first signs in, there's a sign-in page. And I've done that already ahead of time to save us time because we probably have about 40 minutes for Q&A. So let's go into one course. So this is one of our courses that we offer, the E-Accelerator program. And we offer this to students who want to learn entrepreneurship. Okay, so I need to sign in with a different account so we can see the inside of it. So let me just do that really quickly here. So we try to focus on making it as simple as possible for users, both teachers and students, because the last thing we want is for it to have too much technology or too many features. Like some of you probably are already familiar with Blackboard, and other LMS systems. So ours, we try to make it as simple as possible. So this is, let's say, if I'm a student, these are the courses I would see, and then if I wanted to get into the course, so this is an example of the program map for the entrepreneurship course, the E-Accelerator program. You can see the weeks here, the modules inserted, and then let's say we start the course as a student. Okay, let's get started. As much as there's a tool, it's also how you design your course. So it will depend, let's say, how the weeks are mapped out. Typically, we suggest that there's an introduction course so that you kind of get used to it. Okay, what are the things that you can do in the platform? What are the program guidelines, introduction, and whatnot. And then you have all the features here, inserting text, video, assessments. So you can actually include all of that here in FreeJu. And basically, you start from adapting it from your existing syllabus, chop it up into weeks and into sections, into bite-sized portions, and then you can upload it to the system. Okay, so let's go now to the Q&A portion. And there were a lot of questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to group them according to how they were asked. So we have a few themes here. Obviously, most of the questions had something to do with the pedagogy, teaching techniques, and teaching philosophy. So I'd like to invite our speakers today. Maybe I'd like to invite maybe Mark to turn on his camera, as well as Joel, and maybe Nilesh, so that if we do this rapid fire, probably about 20 minutes to answer most of these questions.
Yeah. Wait, I just want to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
I forgot to mention this. When I did the presentation, each contest, or each school will have a different context, and each country will have a different context. But what I really wanted to share was that, because there's a lot of particularly in the Philippines, a lot have been giving up to go to online learning, and they just stop operating. But what I wanted to share with the rest is that it can be done with a lot of it's a lot of political among the administrators. So that's really different ways to do it. And I just wanted to share that the most important thing is that we have to do it. If not, the education of the students will be disrupted.
Okay, thanks, Joel. Maybe just jumping off that comment, that is actually one of the kinds of questions, that one of the themes that have been asked. So there's a question here regarding, with the advent of the Stark scenario, what can you suggest to government and to private public companies to support online teaching and learning? And I think Joel touched a little bit on that, but would anyone else like to comment on, I guess, how governments and educational institutions can work together?
Okay, I think I will probably take that. I think it's very, very important, especially now, for the government agencies to kind of really work a lot closer with edutech platforms like us, so that the students and the teachers who desperately need support are able to get that support in time. If you look at the current statistics, apparently about 300 million students globally are not able to go to school. And when students don't go to school and they are not, and their learning stops, the future of the country, of the economy gets affected. And in order to be able to, not get into those kind of issues 10, 15 years down the line, it is very, very important for the governments to actually work with platforms like ACAD Asia to be able to make the platform available at no cost to the schools, so that the schools can provide an effective education no matter where they are. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Nilesh, for that. So the other groups of questions, I'll take probably this theme. So some questions were related to different types of students. So children, younger students, undergrad students. So some of the questions are, and how do we create an online lesson that is appropriate for preschool students? There's another question here about the case study talks mainly about postgraduate students who are matured. how do you deal with undergrad students, mostly first year, second year, very unstable, not ready to accept this way of learning. They're only watching videos but not participating. And then there's another related question. It's difficult for us to check the students' work. So any advice for younger students, undergrads, those are, hard to get their attention. Maybe does Mark, do you have any insight as to how do you deal with undergrad students and younger students? It's hard to get their attention, keep them focused, keep them engaged.
Yeah. So I think it's a double-edged sword. At the same time, we look at the model, gain attention. Technology has the power to motivate and at the same time maybe distract students. So I think if we can contain it in a little package, and that's why I keep on going back to the idea about structuring your content around key concepts and keeping it within that parameters, short, bite-sized sort of learning. You prevent them really from going off on a distracted. Oh, I like this. I look at that. Oh, there's a YouTube video that links to another YouTube video, and then that's it. You have lost them. So if we can keep them contained within that little bite-sized package, I think that would help tremendously. It prevents the whole idea about. You see, the whole point about learning online. I don't know why some people always equate that it is actually fun. I'm not so sure that just because you put some stuff online, it automatically becomes fun. I think it is deliberate design that is needed to make it actually interesting, but at the same time, not just edutainment, but also learning.
Okay, Mark, thanks for that. I almost forgot that we have a special guest because we have a translator in the audience. So Kwong is diligently typing. So if you guys see the subtitles there, she's the one. So we'll do this, what we call beauty pageant style. Okay. So I'll invite Kwong to turn on her camera. I will try to ask a question in English. She will briefly translate it to Vietnamese. And I'd like to request the panelists to also answer briefly so that Kwong will also have a chance to translate verbally in Vietnamese because we have a lot of Vietnamese guests in the audience. So Kwong, are you there? Say hi.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm working hard.
Fantastic. Okay, Kwong. Okay.
Các thầy cô ở Việt Nam mình có đặt câu hỏi nào không ạ? Tại vì mình nhìn thấy trong các cái list Q&A không có thấy thầy cô nào hỏi hết, hay là để sau này hỏi riêng với Khương. I just say I asked if the Vietnamese teachers have any questions because I don't see any of there. So probably they can ask me later. They have my contact email that Nilesh just sent in the chat box.
That's great. So, okay, I'll just try to go through. Okay, the last group of questions are mostly regarding pedagogy, teaching techniques, and teaching philosophy. So I'll just go through some of them here at a time. So for example, here, there's one question, like they say, our guest from Indonesia, she's saying they use thematic modeling in teaching. Is this more effective to have thematic modeling, and is the duration of the time enough because they have private pupils in private schools? She teach privately. So I guess the question is thematic modeling of teaching, and is the duration long enough? So Kwong, can you translate in Vietnamese, and then we'll have Mark answer that.
Just a minute.
Yeah, our guest from Indonesia.
Yeah, I suggest that, Roy, can you pause at the end of one or two questions, then that I can be able to follow you.
Okay, so she's asking thematic model of teaching, and does the duration matter? So I guess how long they are teaching, and does the model of teaching using themes, is that effective for online teaching?
Đã có các thầy cô có đặt một câu hỏi là cái thời lượng để mà đưa lên học online như thế nào là phù hợp, hay nói cách khác đó là cái cách thức mà mình đưa lên online làm sao cho nó phù hợp với nhiều lứa tuổi khác nhau. Thanks, Roy.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thematic learning
Yeah.
and duration.
So I've actually replied. I think thematic learning again. When you build learning around themes, the first idea would be is there's a lot of supporting structure that comes to it. And my concern with thematic, I'm not saying it's wrong. Don't get me wrong. I think it's actually quite a good way of structuring the learning. Is really how much you really need to support the key concepts. And if we are going online, we want it to be efficient, we want it to be quick, we want it to be effective. So that's when subject matter experts need to come in and design that just key concepts that needs to be put up.
Anh Mark chia sẻ là ở đây chúng ta nên tập trung vào là những cái yếu tố về cái nội dung chủ yếu mà chúng ta cần support, cần hỗ trợ cho người học. Thì vì chúng ta muốn học online thì nhanh và hiệu quả, để mà có thể cho học sinh tập trung vào với chúng ta thì cần có những cái sự hỗ trợ về công nghệ, hoặc là một số các cái phần mềm để mà mình khi mình thiết kế một cái nội dung khóa học online thì chúng ta cần những cái hỗ trợ như thế. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Quang. I think there was a message sent to you directly for Vietnamese questions in Vietnamese directly. Okay. So while you're looking through those, I'm going to look at a couple of probably simpler questions here. And there's another question here, which I find very interesting. Mark, so the question is, could you please explain more about this? Don't just put what you already have online.
Yeah.
So the comment was, I guess, relating to just throwing whatever existing lesson material and just throwing that online straight away.
Yeah.
Can you explain further? And sorry, Quang, did you get that? Could you translate that?
Yes, I got some interesting question here. How to control the student online if they play game or open Facebook? You want to know about that? Xin trả lời cái câu vừa mới dịch cho rồi cái câu của thầy tên là Dương Cường. Nếu mình đang học online thì học sinh mình sẽ không thể nào mình quản lý học sinh. Có thể học sinh sẽ mở máy ra chơi game hoặc là lướt Facebook. Please, Roy.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll answer the first one first, which is what do I mean by don't just use content. So I gave 3 examples in the question when I replied. Number 1 is every teacher has got instructional material that they already have. In Singapore, we have a lot of PowerPoints. So some of the things that I've seen include things like, let's just take the PowerPoint and put it up and then keep our fingers crossed and hope that students are learning. To me, it doesn't make sense, because when you design that PowerPoint, it was designed in a face-to-face type of sessions. It could add extra things that you may not necessarily have thought about in an online environment. So, Kwong, you want to answer that first? You want to translate?
You mean that PowerPoint is not good?
No. What I'm saying is, many lecturers or teachers already have PowerPoints available. You should not just take PowerPoints and put it online and say that's online learning.
Yeah. Anh Mark chia sẻ là thực ra khi sử dụng PowerPoint để mà dạy học online thì rất nhiều giáo viên chúng ta đang dùng cái PowerPoint như là một cái phương tiện. Tuy nhiên chúng ta không nên chỉ dựa vào PowerPoint. Thì chúng ta hãy xem anh Mark nói thêm gì. Mark, thanks.
The other thing is put PowerPoints up, put the tutorial sheet up, and then expect students to somehow use the PowerPoint to answer the tutorial sheets without any kind of help. Again, not a good idea.
Mark nói rằng nếu mà các thầy cô đưa lên một bên là PowerPoint, một bên là giống như một dạng bài tập để rồi cho học trò mình nhìn PowerPoint xong mà trả lời câu hỏi cái bên thì đó cũng không phải là một cách học tốt. Yeah, Mark.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think we should not do when I say we have materials is we add more items into the PowerPoint and then put it up. So from 30 PowerPoint slides becomes 65 PowerPoint slides.
Mark cũng nói là một điều nữa cũng không nên làm là chúng ta đưa quá nhiều PowerPoint lên cho học sinh, thậm chí trong ví dụ PowerPoint là có 30 trang, chúng ta lại đưa thêm thành 50-60 trang như thế, thì đó cũng là không phải là một cái ý tưởng tốt để mà dạy học online. Yeah, thanks Mark.
So to answer Kwong's question, how do I manage online learning so that students are not going on Facebook and so forth? That's a good question. So there are two ways in which I deal with this. One, I try not to do synchronous learning. I try not to do live lectures like this. Okay? Because I'm not present, I'm not there. To me, it's quite difficult. I'm not saying that it's bad, but after a while, people tend to get distracted. Let's go and look at something else. So what I do, I like to design online learning that requires students to participate.
How?
Discussion boards, answer questions, create new things, do research. Keep them occupied. Yeah.
Okay. Để mà trả lời câu hỏi là làm thế nào để quản lý học sinh để học sinh không có chơi game hoặc lướt Facebook, thì có hai cách. Cái thứ nhất là thiết kế cái học online theo các cái phương thức mà trong cái bài presentation anh Mark có nói á, là ví dụ mình đưa ra một cái thảo luận nhóm, trả lời câu hỏi, tạo ra thêm nhiều cái lựa chọn thêm cho học sinh, và hãy để cho học sinh làm những cái nghiên cứu nhỏ nhỏ. Yeah, that's the first way. Mark?
Yeah. So really to do, I think, okay. The challenge is you have to be better or more interesting than Facebook. How do you do that? Is, to me, in Singapore, if you just get your students to read things online, it is not more interesting than Facebook. How do you make it as interesting as Facebook? Where is the interaction? Get them to work together, solve a problem together. That's one example.
Mark cũng suggest là vậy vì làm thế nào, Mark cũng đưa ra ý tưởng là làm thế nào cho học sinh tập trung vào cái việc học online thay vì Facebook. Tất nhiên để xem Facebook thì chúng ta biết nó cũng rất là thú vị, có nhiều cái cách để tương tác, nhận thông tin. Thì cái cách học chúng ta online thì Mark cũng đề nghị là làm sao mà chúng ta tương tác nhiều hơn với học sinh, đưa ra một số cái dạng đọc hiểu, xong rồi trả lời câu hỏi, thảo luận, nghiên cứu thêm một số các vấn đề khác ngoài bài học, tức là phải làm sao cho học trò mình nó có thể mức độ tự học. Yeah. However, Mark, I see that that can be for the higher student, but for the lower one, the younger one, is my they're not just don't have the self-conscious or self-discipline to do that kind of thing.
So one other way, which I was suggesting when I was typing in the Q&A, is if you go online and you look, there are many educational games that you can use for younger students.
Yeah. Mình cũng quay lại hỏi Mark là ví dụ cho học sinh nghiên cứu hay là tự làm bài tập rồi nghiên cứu thêm rồi thảo luận nhóm thì phù hợp với các học sinh lớn hơn. Còn thế thì đối với các học sinh nhỏ thì nó cũng chưa có được cái ý thức kỷ luật á, thì Mark cũng là đưa ra ý tưởng là chúng ta có thể tìm thấy rất nhiều các cái trò chơi học thuật là ở trên internet, thì chúng ta có thể tích hợp và giáo viên cũng phải chịu khó tìm hiểu một số các cái trò chơi này để mà ứng dụng cho học sinh nhỏ tuổi hơn. Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Okay, great. We're just doing a type check. It's 1 minute to 1 o'clock. So There are lots of questions, and we've really just touched on a few of them. What we've done is we're going to archive these questions and come back to all of you as soon as we can on our answers. So before we sign off, maybe Quang, you can say a nice final word for our Vietnamese friends in closing.
Rất cảm ơn các thầy cô đã tham gia hôm nay. Thực sự là trong hôm nay cũng gần đăng ký là hơn 500 á, thì Việt Nam mình là chiếm số đông nhất, là đến 300 mấy lần, 350, 380 lần. Thì đó là một cũng dấu hiệu mà mình rất là vui. Vì Acadesia thì rất là một cái công ty mới, tuy nhiên các anh ấy rất là rành về công nghệ và cũng như về học thuật. Thì những trường học mà đã thực hiện cái nền tảng này rồi á, thì thường ở các nước mà tiếng Anh là một cái ngôn ngữ khá là thuận tiện đối với họ, như là Philippines, Singapore chẳng hạn. Thì cái việc chúng tôi sẽ làm tiếp theo đó là đang chuyển đổi cái nền tảng FreeU để thành gọi là customize, tức là để làm sao có cái ngôn ngữ tiếng Việt ở trong đó nữa, để giúp cho các trường bất kể từ các trường trung học, tiểu học, đại học, cao đẳng, các trường dạy nghề vân vân, có điều kiện tham gia vào cái nền tảng FreeU với cái ngôn ngữ tiếng Việt của chúng ta. I just say about we are trying to customize the Vietnamese language on FreeU platform to accommodate the request in Vietnam. Thank you, Roy.
Okay, thanks a lot, Quang. Maybe one last word from Mark and from Joel before we sign off. Mark, any last word?
Yeah, thank you for spending time with us. I enjoyed myself. I'm still trying to answer some of the other questions on the chat as much as possible. Thank you for them, and I hope you enjoyed our session as well. So thank you, and stay safe, everybody.
Thanks, Mark. Joel?
Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And this is a group effort. Let's all share what we've all learned as we go into online learning. We're a community, and as I said, more than ever, we have to tackle this as one. So good luck, everybody, and stay safe.
Okay, great messages from everybody on the panel again. This is Roy from Philippines. And on behalf of Thames International School and the Acadesia team, on behalf of Nilesh in Singapore, Quang in Vietnam, and all our other country managers who their contacts been shared with all of you, please reach out to us anytime. For those who are asking about certificates that will be issued after this webinar, please answer the exit survey. And after that survey has been answered, then we will send you our certificates participating here. All right, with that, I'd like to thank you, everybody from all over the world, and stay safe. We can do this together. Education is freedom. Bye-bye.
Cảm ơn tất cả các thầy cô. Hẹn gặp lại các thầy cô. Chúc mọi người sức khỏe và mọi người giữ bảo trọng trong thời điểm này.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Quang. Bye. Bye, everybody.